when you name it, it just takes the power away from it.
Yeah. There's a few things that like stick with me when I like either read them or hear them, and I've over like a number of years, maybe going back to when I was maybe like 24 earlier, I've always been into like reading sort of the books around improving yourself. I've always been into it, and it feels like everything I've been reading, consuming all around that is almost like being prep work for this. Like it's almost been like the mental gym, it sounds cheesy, mental gym for like dealing with this big thing. So like the compound effect you just mentioned there's a book called The Compound Effect where it's about like doing the 1% little thing each day that builds up. There's all these like, you know, the Stoic book that I'm reading now, for example, like there's emotional intelligence book, all these different things I feel like gives you that, sets you up for these tough moments. Really, it feels like that. It feels like I've you know, I'd never planned on being like, okay, one day I'm going to go through some sort of tragedy, and I'm working with that to reading those books and consuming that information, but it's all coming back. And I think, for example, like stuff that comes back and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that phrase or forgot that quote or whatever. And there's one which was Jim Carrey, I think, says it on a YouTube. You know, like when they go to uni and they speak to graduates.
Oh, here's one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think he says in that. I think it's him anyway. He says, "Life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you." And that stuck with me for years, for a long time. But then I thought about that the other day. That quote: "Life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you." And in the sense of, if you can live by that, it means that you can have some sort of more control over your life. I'll finish that point then. You can have more control over your life, or like, you know, your perception on life and stuff. Now, I was thinking about, what does that mean when it comes to, say, grief, for example, or the tragedy of like losing my brother to taking his life. That quote, really, it can be misconstrued in that sense. You can't in any way go, okay, that happened for me. That doesn't really make sense, does it? In that at all. So then I was like, well, that is, how true is that quote? But with any of those sort of philosophical quotes, I suppose it's all subjective, isn't it, to the person taking it? And I was thinking about that sort of last few days, week or so, about like, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So I was like, okay, well, you can't turn that into a, that's for me, that it's whatever. But I'm looking at it now in the sense of like, what can I do? Use that instead of things happen. That's something that's outside of my control that I can't do anything with or change. But what can I do with it? Now I'm in this. Like, what can I do? And that's why I do what I do in terms of the daily things doing this, and try and have an attitude of like not being. I suppose the core meaning of that phrase, or one of them that I took from it, was not being a victim to your circumstances and having that victim mentality. I think that's what I've taken from that a bit. Like, woe is me. This has happened. Woe is me. Or can you go all in on something and back yourself to do something as good as you can with that current scenario that you're in, that you can't change? It's just an interesting one, you know, when you have these like quotes over the years that are like positive, motivational.
Yeah.
And then you're suddenly like, well, you've got to almost reframe that in your mind then, because it's something I've always sort of lived by, that phrase. So every time something would happen that was sort of like a little bit of a challenge in life or whatever, it's like, okay, life doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. And then I can then not be that victim mentality. But then when something's like that, you're like, well, how can you say that's, how can you say that's sort of something that's for me? But it's something that I came back to, as I said, and just been thinking about this week about like, okay, what can you do to make it the best of it? You know what I mean?